one of the chosen ones,
Yes, I can.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. We'll get started with some opening remarks.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today in the 23 year-end press conference. Wrapping up 2023, we competed in 2 cup finals, the Open Cup at home and winning historic Leagues Cup. It was an amazing tournament and summer for us. One of my former coaches, Ziggy Schmidt, said, there's something about being the first team to win something that can never be taken away, and it will always be special. During the summer transfer window, our owners, Jose Mas, and David Beckham, realized their dream of bringing the greatest player of all time to Inter Miami in Major League Soccer in Lionel Messi. We also added Sergio Busquets, Jordi Alba to the group, and we also added youth in the summer. The under-22 initiatives, Facundo Farias, Diego Gomez, and Thomas Avilas. We promoted homegrown players, Kramashi and David Ruiz, who had significant minutes for us and played important roles, and added a young player in Santi Morales. We were happy with our young players' contributions this year. They gained valuable experience, especially in the first half of the season. At one point, I think we had 6 academy products in our starting 11. Another breakout performance, Drake Callender. He had a phenomenal season in goal for us. Partway through the season, we made changes to the coaching staff. We were happy to land a world-class coach and experienced coach in Tata Martino and his staff. Along with the first trophy in club history, we qualified for the 24 CONCACAF Champions Cup into the round of 16. And this is significant because it gives us now an opportunity to have a pathway to the FIFA Club World Cup. We have seen what this team is capable of in the summer when we're on all cylinders and everyone is out there. We've had some beautiful football, controlling games, but in saying that, we want more. We will improve this roster. 2024, we have high hopes, and we will compete in multiple competitions. But we will work tirelessly to evaluate the changes that need to be made and achieve our goals in bringing success to our fans at Inter Miami. Lastly, we're evaluating every department in our front office and performance staff, sporting side, to support Tata and his staff and all the players to make sure we are high performing and everywhere in the club. So we look forward to seeing all of you in January as we start up preseason, which will be right around the corner.
Thank you, Chris. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get started with Michelle.
Hi, Michelle.
Hey. I have 2 quick ones, sorry. First of all, have you signed a new contract? What's your future with the team? And then Luis Suarez, I mean, that's the name that everyone is talking about. Tata, he's said we have 2 plans, one with him, one without him. If you could just address that and also your status. Thank you.
Yeah, and per club policy, I'm not going to talk about my situation. We have been in meetings. I've met with owners, talking about the future. For me, it's business as usual. We're preparing the roster for next year, focused on preseason for next year. So, myself and my staff, we're working towards everything for preparing for next year. And Luis Suarez, he's currently with Gremio, so we don't want to comment on a player who's not on our roster. It is another player that's always been linked with our team, and it's great to have great players around the world connected with Inter Miami and wanting to come here.
Tim?
Hi, Chris. Tim Reynolds with the AP. I know we're wrapping up 23, but I wanted to ask you about 24, if I might. You're going to play in a lot of tournaments. I don't even know what your January and preseason looks like, but you could play 45, 50 matches easily next year. How do you hope to manage that? Because that is obviously an awful lot of workload for hypothetically a 37-year-old GOAT and people like that. How do you envision? It's a nice problem to have, but how do you envision managing all that?
Yeah, I mean, As I said, we've seen what this team can do, and we will rely on our elite players, Messi and Alba and Busquets, and I think the balance of the team is going to be really important. And I think we saw an influx of young players come in. We're at the point now where our academy products who have come through our system are starting to contribute on the first team, and those players are going to be really important. But I think the challenge is from our performance staff, what can we do as a club to support these players and make sure that they are able to give as many minutes as they can. But there are times we're going to have to balance the schedule. I think the opportunity for us to get in Champions Cup for the first time is a big opportunity. I've gone through it with my previous club, and it's a fun tournament to be in, but there is travel and games home and away, and it can be taxing on teams. I think I have found with players coming into the league, if they come in the summer window, they're much better the next year because they understand the league. They understand the travel. They understand going to these away stadiums and playing and managing their bodies, and you usually get a better performance in year two. But I think we will have to do everything we can to manage. We're adding some things, as I said, in medical and performance that I think will help us evaluate our players better.
Jose and Franco.
Hi, Chris. Jose Rodriguez from Deporte Total USA. I have two quick ones for you. Can you give us an update on Dixon? What are the plans with him for next year? And also, talking about preseason, there's talk about you guys going overseas and playing some matches away from Florida or the States. Can you update us on how you balance that in terms of the commercial opportunities that are out there for the team, and obviously the football side of preseason, which is also very important?
Sure, good questions. So the first one on Dixon, we didn't take his option, but we are in conversations with Dixon and his representative to see if there's something that can be worked out. He was a really good player for us when Gregory went down and we lost him on a long-term injury, and Dixon came in and had some important games for us. So we will work through that with him and his agent. Preseason, this summer window, I really felt like overnight we became a global club. Eyes all over the world are watching what we're doing. And what comes with that are these tours and preseason opportunities that we have as a club. So we're working closely with the front office as they negotiate some of those preseason tours. We have met with Tata and his staff, and there's certain dates that we want to have games that we can prepare properly for the first game of the season and for CCC as we start that in February. So I think those are important preparations, and making sure we have the right preparation on the field, training, and the right preparation in games, getting us ready for the year.
Franco.
Hey, Chris.
Hey.
I got two for you. When the decision was made in the summer to let Phil go and bring in Tata, the initial press conference, you said, we have a team good enough to win these games. And obviously you guys did win the Leagues Cup, made it to the Open Cup final, but in league play, you guys only moved up one spot from that point to the end of the season. I know you just touched on it a little bit, but how much roster change can we expect going into next year, given the competitions, given how this team did this year? And the second one kind of linked with that is next year will be the first season, I believe, that you will have no sanctions. So you will have a full deck of cards to play with. How much does that help you do your job? How eager are you to get that going after the last few seasons?
Yeah, great. We made the change of Phil out before the summer window. Tata came in. I think when you look at the beginning of the season, we had those big injuries. I mentioned Gregory, Mota, Campana at the beginning was out. We had Pizarro out, Ian Frey, Negri, Coco, all with long-term injuries. So we really had some tough blows early in the season. And at the same time, we were preparing for this summer window that was a long time coming. So we knew we had to do everything on our cap to make sure we had room for the moves we were going to make. The hope was to get enough points that we could sustain that. And I think there was a lot of energy and emotion that was put into winning the Leagues Cup. And I think in this league, sometimes that first trophy is the hardest to win. And, we got over that objective as a club. But I think maybe it played its toll, and along with it, some of the international call-ups that were mixed in there as well, that at the end of the year, we didn't have enough to push through. So, that is the focus in the roster. How do we improve our roster? And we're looking at everything. There's players that are training to come back, and we have high hopes for 2024, and we want to show what we can do as a club. And winning trophies and having high ambition is something we've had since day one.
But is it going to be significant changes, minor changes? I mean, how do you view, what should we as media and fans expect for how busy you guys will or won't be in terms of roster changes?
Yeah, every offseason is busy for us. So, we're having conversations all the way through with teams and looking at players and evaluating. We want to have competition in every position. So, that's evaluating every position. As we get closer and work through the off season, some of those conversations, we'll see if they're realistic. And then lastly, your question on having a full deck on the roster, and that's exciting to be able to make sure we make the right choices and we're able to spend the money in the right positions to really make an impact.
Ian?
Thank you, Rafa. Ian Hess with the Herald Outlet. Hey, Chris. Obviously, Luis Suarez, the big names are what gets a lot of the attention and a lot of the excitement, but you know better than anybody that MLS roster rules are very restrictive, and most of the meat of your construction will happen within the league structure. How much of a focus will be on that? There's obviously a lot of players around the league that are eager to come play with Messi and Busquets and Alba. And what are you looking for internally inside of MLS in terms of improving this roster? Thanks.
First, I'll talk about, the players that we have on our roster now make it a lot easier to go and recruit outside the league and inside the league. Who wouldn't want to play with the greatest players of all time in their positions? And so that helps us. There's free agents out there, and there is trade talk. Teams are asking for players on our team. So these are conversations that are ongoing, and some of the work that our recruitment team will have. And just like every other signing, we will stick to the 7 steps that we take in every player signing to make sure it's the right one to add for us. Players have been rumored, Suarez and other stars are rumored to come here, and I think Miami's a great destination for players where they want to live. But we have to make sure that we're evaluating and players are coming for the right reasons. We want to win, and we want to do everything we can to bring players who come here to win games and win trophies.
Javier, then Thomas.
Good morning, Mr. Henderson. Javier Rodriguez with Fan Network TV. What is your long-term project with Inter Miami after Messi? What will happen with this franchise in 2 years?
Yeah, good question, Javier. I think the balance of the team is important. And as I talked about the 3 U22 signings we had, the development of our academy and players coming through, that is going to be vitally important for the consistency and sustainability, the experience that some of the players, Kromoski, Ruiz had last year, and their impact. The first time a homegrown player has scored a goal. We top the minutes played for players who have come through our academy. So I think that experience at the top and young players coming through. And it may be now, when you look at the age distribution of our roster, that maybe in the middle now, some of those players in their mid-20s who have experience in our league could be added to help with that balance between the two. But I think it's really important to think long-term as well as short-term in winning trophies to make sure that Inter Miami is a competitive team 2, 3, 4 years from now.
Thomas, then Andrea.
Hi, Chris. Thomas Rangen.
Hi, Thomas.
Inter Miami Radio. Don't know how to phrase this, but throughout your career, you're bringing Lodero in 2016 in the summer. You always did a great job of keeping something open. You guys won, obviously, the Cup, and then I think you used pretty much all your money to win the Champions, which is not called CONCACAF Champions League League Cup, I think, right now. How much emphasis is on that trophy, obviously? That starts very early. Are you guys going to be aggressive looking in the offseason to add those pieces that will allow you to make a run there, which will be huge, obviously, not just for us, but for MLS? And lastly, between you and Tata, I looked at his team at Atlanta and the changes he made in the offseason allowed him to win the MLS Cup in 2018. Give me 3 top priorities, no names, but positions where you feel this team needs to get better.
Yeah, there's a lot there. It's 27 years I've been part of MLS, so every season since '96. So I've seen a lot of things happen. And as you pointed out, 2016 we made changes in the summer window, very similar to what we had done to some extent this summer, and had success immediately following. So
You signed Rusnak to win eventually the CONCACAF Champions League earlier. You didn't wait till the summer. So you're very flexible, which you need to be, obviously.
yeah, and I think looking, as you said, you got to look at every position. You got to look at your roster. I think we have players on our roster who have played in the European Champions League and know how to succeed at the same time as managing their domestic league. So that is going to be really important to lean on their experience. Obviously, Tata Martino's seen everything in the game, and he has been through these scenarios as well in league and in Europe. So I think we have to rely on that experience. CONCACAF Champions Cup is something that we are thrilled to be in now. And I think that puts you on a global stage to have success. Only one team has won that tournament with Seattle. Other teams have come very close. So I think that will be something that we want to compete in, along with every other competition we're in. But that is definitely one of the top competitions for us. So we have to look at how we can create goals, score goals. That's very important for us. We're happy with what we have up top. Some of the best talent in the league and in the world. And I think solidifying, how we defend as a team, how we are going to eliminate goals against and opportunities for other teams. I had mentioned Drake Callender and what a phenomenal year he had. So, I think without tipping what we're going to give away in trades and movement, because those are ongoing discussions right now, I do feel like we have to have competition at every spot and look at that if we're going to compete in these tournaments.
So can I assume that a very athletic center back is a need maybe, and a guy that can score 20-plus goals a year?
Yeah, I think goals win games. But yeah, I think we have to evaluate, and we have weekly meetings with the coaching staff and the recruitment staff to look at where we need to focus within the team and where we need to improve going forward.
Andrea?
Hi, Chris. Andrea Yanes, Deporte Total USA. I wanted to ask you 2 quick ones. The first one is about Leandro Gonzalez-Pires and Emerson Rodriguez. What is their status? Are they coming back? Are you negotiating with River Plate and Santos? And the second one is about Leagues Cup. Leagues Cup next year, if it's played at the same time it was this year, it's gonna match some games with Copa America, with European Championship, all the competitions that are next year. Is there talk about changing the calendar or changing the format? Something that you know? Thank you.
Okay. I'll start with LGP. Leandro is obviously a big part of our club. And he had the opportunity to go to River Plate. River Plate has an option to purchase him, so we are talking with them. We'll see what happens and what River Plate does there. Emerson had a really good season at Santos Laguna. We're happy with his progress. They also have an option to purchase him, which will come in December. So we have ongoing discussions with them as well. Leagues Cup. I do think there's a lot of discussion at the league level, in how we can alleviate some of these international windows and the congestion of the schedule. But I think with the amount of tournaments that teams are taking part of with international duty, it's very hard to figure out There just isn't enough game days to sort it all out. So there's going to be times where teams are going to suffer. And I think I played for my national team. When anyone gets called into their national team, they have to go and represent their country. That is something that we fully support. But I do think we need to try and find dates where we can make sure we have our best players at Inter Miami. So it's exciting for our country and our league that we can host Copa America. That eventually the World Cup's going to be in North America is amazing for the future of soccer here.
Back to Michelle and Tim.
Michelle Kaufman, Miami Herald. Chris, I want to ask a little more detail about the preseason plans. You said you have to pick dates that are, specific to now you have all these tournaments. You want to be prepared for champions. You want to be prepared for the start of the season, which is usually also late February. They haven't announced the starting date yet. But what are the windows? How do you see January 10th is when the practices with training starts. How do you see January 10th through third week of February? What kind of windows do you see being training here, training somewhere else, having how many games do you think are ideal? Just a little more detail. Thanks.
Sure. I think we've looked at the preseason. We're working with Xavi in the front office, who are looking at possible tours. So I think we'll have a combination of some time here and in market, and then time overseas. So I think those are all being negotiated and worked on now in conjunction with Tata and our staff to make sure it's the right competition for us to help us prepare for CCL and CCC and the league starting in February. So all the players now are doing off-season workouts. They'll take some time to rest, but then they'll start to ramp up. So in January they're getting ready. We'll start out with testing and medicals in January, and then probably go for a couple weeks before we'll play our first exhibition game. And that will go at probably, I would say 4 to 6 games between that time and the start of the season is adequate to get our players ready so they're at 90 minutes fit as we start to go into the season in late February.
It looked like it had already been announced from the Argentina side that Newell's, you are going to play against them. I saw a date of February 16th. Is that settled? Is that confirmed?
I would say nothing is confirmed on preseason yet, but those discussions have happened, and you'd have to refer to Xavi and in the business side. I can say that those discussions have happened.
Tim?
Chris, you've referenced Drake a couple of times since you've been up there, and like you said a few minutes ago, yes, goals do win games. Not allowing them also helps quite a bit too. How did he continue to evolve? I think we all sort of forget how young he still is. How did he continue evolving this year? And just, I know the club's been high on him, but how has he earned that sort of thinking from you guys? And what do you see as where he's still got to get better? What do you think the ceiling is for Drake? Thank you.
Yeah, good question on Drake. Yeah, we're super pleased with him. I think Drake has grown in composure and calmness. He brings a calmness in the back that's beyond his age. Athletically, reactions, angles. That's about as far as I'll go on goalkeeping, because I don't know anything about goalkeeping coaching, but he
counts as the same thing too. He doesn't know about points either.
But he is composed in the back, which is important. And I think, the way we want to play, I think, his feet continue to improve. We've seen Drake's introduction into the U.S. national team. I think he's going to have a tremendous future there. I think he'll compete with that team, and he'll continue to be a leader for us at Inter Miami.
And last question we're going to take from the Zoom, Felipe Cárdenas from The Athletic.
Hello, Chris. Good morning. Felipe Cárdenas, The Athletic. How are you, man?
Hi, Felipe. Good.
I know the amount of games has been talked about a lot, what you guys are going to face next year. What does that mean for Leo's availability. Like, how can you count on him for 34 games and the World Cup qualifying, the Leagues Cup, and everything like that? It is going to be a really busy schedule. Copa America, as you mentioned. How important is that in building a team that you don't have to necessarily always depend on Messi in every single game? And then just again on the back line, 54 goals conceded. What is the focus to make that part of the field stronger?
Okay. Yeah, I would say first with Messi and his national team and Copa America, I always found that the players who were getting ready for a big tournament to come up, they want to make sure they're fit, they're sharp, and the way Messi trains and leads our team and the example he sets is extraordinary. He comes out in training and he is focused and has a very high standard that he helps bring the players up and the level up. So I think we're going to get a big boost there from our veteran players who are going to help the team and want to win. So I find that a positive. Of course, there may be games where players are away and representing their national team, and that's where some of the young players who are coming up, Farias, Aviles, Gomez, some of the other young players are going to get their opportunities. And I think we need to make sure that we have a real balance of players who can come in at different times and help in those moments where we need maybe another veteran leader to step up and perform for the team. As for giving goals up, it's a focus and really important for us, but I think in 24 we'll finally have time for Tata to have a real stretch of time to work with the team. I mean, when you look at when he joined the team, it was 100 miles per hour from the day he took over. We had Leagues Cup, and then we had games every 3-4 days. So it doesn't give a coach time to just work on certain aspects of how the team's going to play, how the team's going to defend. So I'm looking forward to that and having our coaching staff really work with our players.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chris.